American Movie is a 1999 American documentary film directed by Chris Smith, who directed Jim and Andy, The Great Beyond, which I previously reviewed on this channel. The film chronicles the making of Coven, an independent short horror film directed by Wisconsin-based filmmaker Mark Borchardt. Filmed between September of 1995 and August of 1997, American Movie documents the making of that independent film and the struggle and the exhaustion and the issues that came with doing that type of movie for Mark Borchardt. Produced for the purpose of raising capital for Mark Borchardt's other project, Northwestern, a feature film that he intended to make, the short film Coven suffers from numerous setbacks, including poor financing, a lack of planning, Borchardt's burgeoning alcoholism, and the ineptitude of the friends and family he enlists as his production team. The documentary follows Borchardt's filmmaking process from script to screen and is interspersed with footage from both of Borchardt's developing projects. One thing that I keep returning to this documentary, and I like the fact that's a very much a rewatchable documentary, is that there's so much to learn about the process of being an independent filmmaker, the struggles and the issues that come with it, and just the amount of funds that's necessary just to make an independent film. And it's all on display here. Mark Borchardt, I think I have a lot of respect for because of the fact that he was so committed to making these short films and trying to attempt to even make a feature film on his own is somewhat admirable in my opinion. I feel the struggle he went through trying to get people to come into casting meetings, trying to organize people together, getting a good enough competent film crew from his friends. We see how making the films and trying just to put all of his effort into it has turned him to kind of alcoholism. He's stressed out. He has to work odd jobs on the side. There's scenes where he's working at a cemetery and he talks about the fact that it's a miserable workplace and that he doesn't want to continue pursuing those types of jobs, but mainly wants to focus on films because it's something that he's passionate about. The other aspect of the documentary is that you see him trying to convince his uncle, who's this elderly man who has a large amount of money, to finance his films and basically become a producer. And it's kind of sad to see that he's at this point where he has to beg for money from his uncle, and that while his uncle does provide the funds, his uncle does not have faith in his projects and doesn't see anything coming to fruition through his films at all. And that also adds more stress to Mark Borchardt. In my opinion, I feel that Mark Borchardt is attempting to go after something and trying to pursue a passion that he has, and that even though it's not going to become successful in the end, he's going to pursue that anyways. And it's something that I like watching in this documentary. The other aspect is that I like the fact that his friends and his family also chime in their interview and they give their opinions on how they think of Mark Borchardt and how they think of his film projects, because many of them have little faith except for his friend Mike Shank. Mike Shank, who is in the documentary, comes off as this simple yet very lovable person who supports Mark Borchardt through and through. He'll help him out on his sets, providing being basically an assistant, being a cameraman. He'll help out in any way, and I think that's very much admirable on his part. The sad fact, though, is that Mike Shank has recently passed away. It's very sad that he's gone. He was a very good person, and I think he really added to the documentary in making it very entertaining. There was many moments where he's telling stories, where he's cheering up Mark Borchardt, and I really love those scenes with Mike Shank in it. May he rest in peace. Mark had to go through a lot, and he had to deal with so much in the sense that he didn't have that much funding. A lot of people who were helping him out did the best that they could, even though that they weren't skilled editors, film crew, they weren't gaffers, they weren't cameramen whatsoever. So he had to put up with the fact that many of the people he was working with were somewhat incompetent. And to me, seeing him almost prevail in a way at the end, he gives a premiere of his short horror film Coven. There's actually a scene in the film which is hilarious where they're discussing the correct pronunciation of whether it's Coven or Coven. But anyways, at the end of the film, he does have a premiere of it, and he's somewhat satisfied, and he feels that at least he accomplished something, in the sense that here, this short film, which took 3 years to make, a 35-minute long short film, took 3 years of just pain and exhaustion and issues and problems that kept coming up, and yet he was able to complete it with the amount of funds that he was given to him by his uncle. And to me, seeing that, I think is somewhat kind of, I don't know, inspiring in a way. He is trying to make these films with the limited resources that he has, while also having to do his multiple jobs. One of his jobs, like I stated, was working at the cemetery. He also had to deliver papers for a living, and he is deeply indebted. He racked up a large amount of credit card debt that he has to pay off, and he still lives with his parents, dealing with his alcoholic problem, and also with the fact that he has an estranged ex-girlfriend who is threatening to move out of state with their 3 children. So yeah, he has 3 children he's basically having to pay child support for. So seeing him at the end actually finally edit and put together that film and having a premiere is somewhat satisfying, and I'm really glad that he succeeded in that way, as I find it somewhat remarkable. After Mark completed Coven and had it premiered, Chris Smith compiled the footage that he had into American Movie, the documentary, which was picked up by Sony Classics and won the Grand Jury Prize at the 1999 Sundance Film Festival. The movie became wildly popular with critics and really started to make Mark Borchardt more popular. Since then, Mark has been very much active, appearing on television and in movies. He actually made 5 appearances on The Late Show with David Letterman. He and Mike Shank also had their own television series on Zero TV called Mark and Mike back in 2006. They also hosted a national television special called Night of the Living Dead, live from Wisconsin on Halloween night. Mark actually went on to direct his own documentary called The Dundee Project, which focused on attendees of a UFO festival in Wisconsin. I believe he's still somewhat active on YouTube. I've seen many interviews and other kind of videos of him, vlogs of his life in Wisconsin. So his life has improved, and we see that from this documentary, he has benefited from the making of this documentary, and I'm glad that it happened to him. And also, Mike Shank benefited from this documentary being made, as he actually went on to also do a lot of guest appearances, became somewhat of a celebrity with Mark Borchardt at film festivals, and appeared again also on The Late Show with David Letterman. He produced his own music, his own CDs, and he appeared also on a cameo appearance on Family Guy. And it's truly sad to hear that later on in his life he developed cancer and he died just this year. And it's something that I think is truly really depressing, in the sense that here is this guy who's this lovable character, who's this sweet person in the documentary, and he passes away. And yeah, besides that, I feel like I wish the best for Mark. I hope that his career continues to improve and he gets to go on and make more films or even documentaries. So yeah, I highly recommend y'all check out this documentary, as not only is it a really inspiring documentary, it's also very funny. It's a hilarious documentary to watch because there's so many quotes from Mark Borchardt, as he is quite a hilarious character, him in combination with Mike Shank. Yeah, they just make a really great comedy duo as they reminisce and talk about their drug addictions, their addiction to alcohol. I remember scenes with Mike talking about his gambling addiction and helping out Mark with his films. Their interactions are just really great to see, and it's very pleasant and also heartwarming to see. Like, there's also when he invited him over to Thanksgiving and he talked about how much he appreciated Mike Shank, and it's really great to see that. It's really sad, of course, knowing that Mike isn't with us anymore, and may he rest in peace. And I feel that he has left a lot behind, and he's a really great human being. And again, once again, look more into Mike Shank's life and look into Mark Borchardt, because he's a very interesting human being. Thank you for watching this review. I hope you guys got something out of it. I hope you guys take the time and watch this documentary, as it's really a classic in my mind, and needs to be watched and rewatched over and over again, as I love it. I absolutely love it. Thank you again, and like always, I hope everybody has a wonderful day.